Hello everyone, Group 4 here. Me, Ailen Chappex, and my teammates Ovelar, Karim Páez, and Evelyn Benítez are bringing you a brief explanation on how to make comparisons. In this material, we explain what an adjective is, and we explain the rules on how to make comparatives, superlatives, and how to follow the as form. An adjective is a word that help us describe nouns or pronouns. Adjectives are also useful for making comparisons, and in order to make grammatically correct comparisons, we must know the rules for the comparative, superlative, and the as form.
The comparatives are used when someone wants to compare between two subjects. Its structure is subject 1 plus verb plus comparative form plus then plus subject 2. The way each comparative form is structured depends on the length of the adjectives. For example, adjectives with one syllable end with er or ar, depending on the last letters of the word. When an adjective ends with the consonant e, we add an r. For example, my grandmother is wiser than my mother. When an adjective ends with two final consonants, we directly add er. In the case of word soft, its comparative form is softer. For example, the blue sheets are softer than the pink sheets. When the last letter of an adjective are a consonant plus a short vowel plus consonant, the last letter is doubled and we add er after it. For example, the blue whales are bigger than giraffes. For adjectives with two syllables that end with y, we change the y for an I and then add er. For example, Lucy looks happier than John. For adjectives with two syllables that end in er, o, or le, we add er or r. Considering some of the priorly mentioned rules, for example, today Louis was gentler than yesterday. Adjectives with three or more syllables are preceded by the word more, then we add the adjective without modifying it, and then the word then. This is more plus adjective plus then. For example, the Percy Jackson books are more interesting than the Percy Jackson films.
Superlatives are used when comparing more than two things. Notice how in comparatives two subjects were needed? With superlatives, the aim is to compare one subject over a collective group. The same rules to compare adjectives apply to superlatives. Adjectives with one syllable ending st or est, depending on the last letters of the word. When an adjective ends with the vowel e, we add an st. For example, the blue sheets are the softest sheets I own. When an adjective ends in two consonants, we add an est. For example, my grandmother is the wisest in our family. When the last letters of an adjective are a consonant plus short vowel plus a consonant, the last letter is doubled and we add est after it. For example, blue whales are the biggest mammals on Earth. For adjectives with two syllables that end in y, we change the y for an I, then add est. Lucy looks like the happiest woman alive. For adjectives with two syllables that end in er or le, we add est or st, considering some of the priorly mentioned rules. For example, today Louis was the gentlest man in this room. Adjectives with three or more syllables are preceded by either the word most or least. Then we add the adjective without modifying it. For example, the Percy Jackson books are the most interesting books I have ever read.
Not all adjectives follow the rules that my teammates just presented. There are some exceptions, especially in the case of two-syllable adjectives, and there are also irregular adjectives. There are some exceptions for some two-syllable adjectives. These exceptions can go either with ER, EST, or with more and most. The word polite is one of these exceptions, so it is possible to say politer or more polite, and also the politest or the most polite. Besides these exceptions, there also are irregular adjectives. They are irregular because the comparative and superlative cannot be made by adding ER, EST at the end of the word. The whole word changes. Good is an irregular adjective, so we cannot say that one is gooder than two or one is the goodest. We have to say one is better than two or one is the best. Another irregular adjective is the word much. We cannot say that there is mucher money than yesterday, but we can say that there is more money than yesterday.
The as form. Generally, this form is used to compare things that are similar, but we can also use it when they are imbalanced to make quantitative comparisons or express possibilities. If we want to compare people or things that are equal, we have to follow the structure as plus an adjective or adverb plus as. For example, my sister is as beautiful as my mother. We can also convey the opposite by adding a not in front of the mentioned structure. For example, this movie is not as exciting as the last one. Quantitative comparisons are possible by using many or much, depending on what we are referring to. If the word is an uncountable noun, we use the word much. For example, this business does not make as much money as others. If the word is a plural noun, we use many. There weren't as many children as the birthday girl expected. And lastly, we can express possibilities. For example, I will drive as slow as I can.
So, summing up the lesson, comparatives are used to compare two nouns, and they can be made by adding R or ER at the end of the adjective. Superlatives are used to compare three or more nouns, and they can be made by adding ST or EST at the end of the adjective. And as is used to express equality or things that are not equal, or quantitative comparisons or possibility. Thank you.